Respected principal and my dear friend, Professor Iyer Saab, the collaboration with Sanskrit Sahitya Academy of Gujarat, Sanskrit Bharati, and R.H. Patel College of Arts and Commerce, our reverend panelist, Dr. Hemant Bhai Bhalodia Sahib, and Adarniya Dayashankar Pandya Sahib, and the organizers from R.H. Patel College. First of all, I render my heartfelt thanks for making me part of this wonderful whole week-long celebrations, and today is the last day, so I'm privileged to attend to this seminar, and I really compliment from my heart because these type of events are normally not organized at the college level. I'm supposed to put forth the English part of it, so please allow me to use English in this particular presentation. However, in between, I would like to switch over to Gujarati or Hindi for the larger benefits of our dear students. Because as an English teacher, I know how much whenever we start English, it looks good, but then people just run off thinking that they might or may not understand it. It's my privilege to have a combination of education. As Professor Iyer was introducing his father, I also am a product of multiple subject system and the semester system where I studied English, political science, Sanskrit and statistics in my graduation. And that actually laid down the foundation of Sanskrit, which over the years has grown as a passion, and I never could leave Sanskrit. There were many reasons for not leaving the Sanskrit, and in many of our English classes, I have used many other instances quoting from Sanskrit text. Many times my questions are: do we know Greek? Do we know Latin? Do we know Italian? Do we know German? Do we know French? If not, so how can we claim that we know Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Horatius, Kafka, so many other writers? We are reading them in translations. So if we can read German in translation, Greek in translation, Italian in translation, what prevents us to read our Sanskrit scriptures in translation? Well, it's not difficult. We have translations into Indian languages. There are many scriptures from Sanskrit which have been translated into Gujarati, into Hindi, into Marathi, Bengali, and many other classical languages of India. So what prevents us to go to the Sanskrit? The question is, why Sanskrit? Why there is an insistence of Sanskrit? In my brief talk, I would like to present you the part of my research which would startle you. The Sanskrit scriptures, first of all, the word Sanskrit, that means Samyak Kritam, that means whatever we do has to be correct. So it leads us to the correctness. When we study English, we are told vowels. There are 5 vowels: A, E, I, O, U. But we don't know what are vowels. When we learn Sanskrit, we start with Devanagari Bhasha. And in Devanagari, the first set of sounds are called swar. Now, swar is vowel, and then comes akshar, and they are the consonants. So there is a clear segregation of vowels and consonants. If I ask any English speaking student what is vowel and what is consonant, this scientific difference is very difficult to be told. But when we reach to a language after studying Sanskrit, we know the scientificality of the division between vowels and the consonants. But my idea is not here to become a linguist or to talk about the language. I am talking about Sanskrit as a culture. We have very rich culture of Sanskrit. When we talk rich culture of Sanskrit, that means Sanskrit, normally we think that has dealt with dharma, with religion. Each and every text that is written in Sanskrit, we just club it with our religion. It is not so. Sanskrit is a compendium of sciences. Major texts in Sanskrit are about the sciences. What type of sciences? So, physics, astronomy, mathematics, geometry, medical sciences, yoga. These are the major sciences which were prevalent in ancient India. Even today, the medical world, entire world have not been able to find out the relevant words in their languages. Entire medical world even today uses Sanskrit only. We think it is English. For example, when we say mental, now mental means man. So man is a Sanskrit word, and from man it is mental. From dant it is dental. From hard it is heart. From hast it is hand. Like many, I have a long list of such terminology which is still using Sanskrit, because when we started with the medical sciences, with surgery, with other chikitsa kshetra, the world was still sleeping in medieval and dark ages. They had no sciences at all. So world had no option but to adopt this terminology as it is. So they are using Sanskrit in day-to-day life, and we think it is English because it is written in English, dental, heart, mental, without thinking that this is Sanskrit. Similarly, in 1671, we know those were the days when colonizers visited India in the form of East India Company. So in 1671, the first translation school was established. It was established in Chennai in a missionary, and they picked up certain texts and very calculatively, very intelligently they picked up the text about astronomy, about medicines, and about arithmetic and geometry, 4 types, and then they translated into German, into French, and into English. Now these translations, when we see what have done to their world, I give you one simple example. Newton came to India for about 17 times before he could propagate his theory of gravitation. Each time he would come and see if people are aware of this theory of gravitation, because he was going to propagate it from his own side in his own name. And when he found out that Indians are not at all aware of their own text, so he just propagated the theory in his own name, and it is called Newton's gravitational theory, which is actually written in Surya Siddhantika in our own scripture. Another very startling example from Surya Siddhantika. We know that light has 7 prisms and sun is the center of earth. Now this one particular sukt I am going to speak, you would be astonished to see how 3 scientists actually picked up one small piece out of this one line and they claimed it is their theory. So the first thing is sun is the center. The second is that light has 7 prisms, and the third is light is not linear. 3 सिद्धांत जो 3 दुनिया के वैज्ञानिकों ने अपने नाम से कर दिए, जो कि हमारी संस्कृत की सिर्फ एक लाइन में तीनों सिद्धांत हैं, सूर्य सिद्धांतिका नाम की पुस्तक में थे. क्या सिद्धांत है वो? रथस्य चक्र एकम सप्ततुर्गः सूर्यरश्म्यः भुजंगमेव गमयन्ति. So the first principle is Rathasya Chakra Ekam. There is only one chariot and the center of the chariot is sun. Sapt Turga. Turga is color. Sapt means 7. Sapt Turgaha Surya Rashamyaha. The rays of sun, सूर्य की रश्मियों के 7 रंग हैं. The Indradhanush has 7 colors. So the 7 prisms of light are there, and light is not linear. भुजंगमेव गमयन्ति, जैसे सांप चलता है टेढ़ा मेढ़ा, भुजंगमेव गमयन्ति. Now this one simple line had the claimants from three different cultures. So one scientist from Germany claimed this is the center of the earth. One from France claimed that light is not linear. One from Europe, Britain, claimed that okay, light has 7 prisms. And we sit on it like an ignorant person, as if we are absolutely, agyani, ignorant. We don't have any culture of education. Actually, Sanskrit has documented our very, very great heritage system. We in our culture don't have a system of the sophisticated labs where we do the experiments and then bind the experiments and put in the library by giving the numbers with the copyrights. Nothing of that sort. We ourselves have created labs in ashrams, in jungles, in forests, under rishis, under sant. Why they were called rishi? Why they were called sant? Because they had dedicated themselves to the discoveries, to the invention. So in some forest, in some ashram, something was happening and they decided that okay, the this metal has water cleaning object. So today when we drink water from copper, we know it will detoxify us. In our culture, we have a system to throw the coins into the water. Now earlier days the coins were made of silver, gold and copper. So we would throw the coins into water and they would clean the water. From where does it come? There must be some scientific study which shows that these metals clean the water. So we had this tradition. So Sanskrit gives us that knowledge which, without even knowing the scientific formula, makes us live scientifically. Our Sanskrit lok katha, they talk about Navratri. They talk about the sowing the seeds into Navratri in an earthen pot. What do? This is an indigenous soil testing system, because when we put into soil those seeds during 9 days of Navratri, we actually test the soil to know how much productive this soil can be this season. And after 9 days, with the length of that seed, we can find out that what type of the crop is going to be. So Sanskrit scriptures are the storehouses of our knowledge systems. I was just reading a couple of years back that a German scientist has come up with a theory that whatever we speak doesn't die, and from the atmosphere we can just collect all those vibrations again and can give a concrete form of words. But do you know, in Mahabharata, when Bhishma was on Sharshaya, Krishna comes over there to give moksha to Bhishma, and when Krishna came, Bhishma Pitamaha recited 1000 names in praise of Krishna, that is Mahavishnu. After he recited those names, suddenly everyone, they realized that they have not collected back those names. So, they have lost all those 1000 names. But then Sahadev was asked to collect all the names from the atmosphere. So Sahadev collected all the names from the atmosphere and gave it to Rishi Vyasa. Out of that, Vishnu Sahasranam is created. Aren't we talking of the same science? What the German scientists have now invented about 7-8 years back, that no word expires, whatever we speak remains in the atmosphere. We can collect it again and give it to the concrete form. For like that, there are thousands, hundreds of examples which we can say that they actually are the storehouses of the sciences. There is a long tradition of scriptures. We are blamed that we don't have any research methodology, that we don't document the things right. Well, if you read Arthashastra by Kautilya, that is Chanakya, who has written Arthashastra, just read first two chapters. In first two chapters, he gives the names of about 27 scholars, And how does he give? He say, okay, on taxation, Ravan Sanghita says that, but I say this. On fine, the fining system, punishment system, Shukra Niti Sar says that, but I say this. Well, this is something like citation. There are the traditions of literature review also. So when they would write something, they would say, okay, Valmiki before me has said this, Kalidas before me has said this, Tulsidas before me has said this. So that is literature review. You are actually reaching out to those points and then telling them. There are so many other traditions which the Sanskrit language as such has given us. If we are deprived of it, why the new education policy wants us to reach back to Sanskrit? Because the world is after us. The world is digging out the knowledge systems from our own books, from our own manuscripts. And we in India, we think we are, as if we study Sanskrit, we are committing a crime because it's a dead language. In 1857, the first college in India was opened, and that college was opened in Calcutta named Presidency College, and immediately after that 2 other colleges were also opened in Bombay and Madras. They were after the model of University of London. But after 3 years, University of London was closed, and it was said that this particular education system is no good, so we should close University of London. And after 3 years, when the university was opened again, you can still read in the preamble of University of London what the preamble says. The preamble starts with a shloka that was written on Takshila University's library, which is named as Ratna Sagar. And that shloka, if I now recite right now, you will be amazed to see that that was actually semester system. Today we think semester system came from West. But tell me, the West had no tradition of education when we had 29 ancient universities. And you know how long our universities were existing? Some university was 1400 year long, someone had 1200 years, so they were in thousands of years of existence. Now this shloka was, and then we would compare it with our semester system. The shloka was Acharyat Padam Adatte Padam Shishyaswa Medhaya Padam Sah Brahmacharibhyah Padam Kal Kramen Cha. This is newly opened London University that was opened after 3 years of closing. Now what is this? They say part of education would come like a direct teaching from the teacher in the class. Acharyat Padam Adatte. Padam Shishya Swamedhaya, what you call assignment, that the student will complete it with its own knowledge system. Padam Sah Brahmacharibhyah, that is project work that you do in a group. And Padam Kal Kramen Cha. Well, our semester system does the same. Some portion we study in the class, some portion is given like assignment, some portion is given in the project form, and whatever is rest, that the life would teach it. Now, we ourselves don't know it. So today when we implement semester system, we become very happy that, oh, we are now becoming global. But we don't understand the globe had already become Indian, and they had no other choice to be but to become Indian, because India is existing with the most ancient knowledge systems. There is no knowledge system available in the whole world which is more or which is older than India. So we are the custodians, we are the precursors of the actual education system. You know, our Sanskrit scriptures have given one word which is used world over for education. The word is Vishwavidyalaya, and in English it is called university, because we call it Vishwa. We always had that global vision with us. That is why in English they translated and called it universe and university. From there again another word, what we call it Kulpati. in Mahabharata, for the first time, this word was used as Kulpati. And after that, till today, we use the same word. In Taittiriya Upanishad, we had a proper convocation speech. Even today, the graduates are called Snatak. Why they are called Snatak? You know, Snatak means Snan Kiya Hua. And there were 3 types of Snan. The first type of Snan was just passing the degree. The second type of Snan was when you are claiming the degree and then would do good for the society. So Dwi Snatak. और एक 3 Snatak means 3 तरह का स्नान किया हुआ, which means you will teach now. You will become the guru yourself. And for each snan there was a course, so you have to finish the course. It's something like pass course, honors course, master's course, research course. So we already had this provision. We already had the provision of assistant professor, associate professor, professor, because we call them shikshak, guru and acharya. So we already had these segregations. What is more important for us to know is that even in literature there is lot of science. Not only science, there is social science. In Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Dushyant, when he lost Shakuntala, he is going in search of Shakuntala. So everywhere whenever he goes in his chariot. अपने रथ पे दुष्यंत जाते हैं और जाते हुए अपने सारथी को बोलते हैं कि ये जो दूर वाली चीज़ है ये पास आ जाती है, पास वाली चीज़ दूर चली जाती है, तुम कितनी तेज़ी से रथ चला रहे हो. न किंचित में दूरपि न पार्श्वे रथ जवात. रथ के जाने से ना कुछ दूर रह जाता है ना पास. Aren't we talking of the principle of speed in physics? This is what Kalidas is using. So our Kalidas himself is a scientist. He doesn't miss out on not only this physics, he also talks of political science. Because when again Dushyant is searching for Shakuntala, at one place when he just rested, his mantri came. And mantri, he just said that, oh, this order is pending, Raja, please concentrate and all. At that time, Dushyant says, Avishramo ayam loktantra adhikarah. Oh my God, this loktantra, this democracy doesn't let me to take my own time also. Avishramo ayam loktantra adhikarah. Now, how do, when we study these literature, we actually study the sciences, we actually study the social sciences. Same Kalidas in Abhigyan Shakuntalam only, there is one very beautiful sentence. When Rishi Durvasa curses Shakuntala and says, तुम जिसको याद कर रही हो, जिसकी याद में तुमने मुझे निग्लेक्ट किया, वो तुम्हें भूल जाएगा. So when she is leaving for Dushyant, her friends were talking to each other. Have you told Shakuntala that this is the curse on him? At that time, the friend says, Kaha Ushnodakain Navamalikam Sanchaiti. So they are talking of zoological also, botanical also. They talk, no, कैसे बताएंगे? क्या नई नई खिली हुई सुंदर कोमल पत्ती पे कोई उबलता हुआ पानी डालता है? So Sanskrit basically is a storehouse of all possible sciences that we must know. And because it belongs to our own culture, so we have to understand our own culture with the first source only. Why should we just, these days whenever youngsters, they hear that, okay, we had this tradition of aeroplanes, tradition of Anu, tradition of atom bombs and all, and they say, yes, there are the things in scriptures. Then our youngsters, they want the particular citations, they want the references, they want the proof, and there we fail them to give the proof. Now this is our job. This is the right time to give them the information with the proof. Once we provide the information with the proof, whole skepticism will go away. This doubt, we know we are great, but what is the proof we are great? We know we are a knowledgeable society, but what is the proof we are a knowledgeable society? We know Krishna says, Vriksho mein main people hoon, but we don't know why. Because people is the only tree which gives you oxygen 24 hours. So there might be some testing lab which has tested different types of trees and then found that people is the most advantageous tree. Again, Sanskrit gives us lok char also. When we say lok char, it means it is not only a storehouse of serious writings, it also gives us the vyavhar, it also gives us practices, it also gives us some traditions which we should adopt as part of religion, as part of rituals. So when we put tilak, when we put the yellow or red tilak on our face, what are we doing? It is a very scientific writing which says not only matter but energy also has color. So we are applying the color and thus gathering the energy into our own system. That is why for energy only 2 or 3 types of colors are important. So either we put red or we put saffron or we put yellow, because these 3 energies have the direct impact on our blood circulations. So the Sanskrit is very important tradition, I would say, not even language. If we find it difficult, fine, we should go to the translations. If the translations are not available, go to the lectures. At least now YouTube or other sources are full of such lectures. But we should not remain ignorant, because if we remain ignorant, then this ignorance would lead us to confusion and doubt. And I'm sorry to say, many centuries have passed where we have lived with this doubt, that are we great? Do we have a great tradition? Our rituals, do they have some scientificalities or not? I should tell you that in Vatican City, Reverend Pope has made committees, inter-religious dialogue committees, and there are committees like Christianity versus Islam, Christianity versus Hinduism, Christianity versus Zoroastrian. So in Christianity versus Hinduism, there are 6 people from India and I'm one of them appointed. What is my duty? My duty is to decode the scientificality of Vedic knowledge system. That is our knowledge system. And deeper I go, deeper I find this association of Sanskrit, rituals and our behavior. So each and everything is so very scientific that if we go to our scriptures, we would be really interested to know. I would end with one example from Ramayana. We have this thought that Lakshman Rekha was made for Sita. But Sita was actually, she was able to cross the Lakshman Rekha. That means it was not for Sita. So whom the Lakshman Rekha stopped? Lakshman Rekha stopped Ravana. Now Ravan, when he came to Sita to abduct Sita, Ravan was not like a demon. Ravan was like a sadhu. Today our CCTV can show us only the outer form of a person who is coming. But this Lakshman Rekha could actually sense that behind this sadhu vesh is a demon. Up to that sensitivity our scriptures talk. So are we ready to decode our scriptures? Are we ready to reread our scriptures? Are we ready to find out the logic and then live with that logic to the society, so that we actually make something good out of it? And when then we say we are great, or we are great civilization, or we have great traditions, we should not feel nervous but confident. With this, I stop myself. I am really very thankful to Iyer sir and to whole team for making me a part of it. And I really wish whatever we study, whether we study science or commerce or English or any other literature, we should never forget to read and study Sanskrit. It is wonderful, it is amazing, it is very interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you.